Porphyria's Lover by Robert Browning, written in 1836. In the Love and Relationships collection, the poems cover the themes one would expect about love: courtship, joy, sex, heartbreak, pain, and breakdown. Porphyria's Lover is a love poem, but is probably the most twisted and disturbed of the love poems in the collection. It's certainly the only one to feature a murder. The poem is a dramatic monologue told from the point of view of a man who's anxiously awaiting in an isolated cottage for someone. It's a dark and stormy night. The weather is in a significant instance of pathetic fallacy reflecting the speaker's chaotic mind. When Porphyria, the speaker's beloved, comes in, instantly she makes the cottage cosy. But the speaker seems to be resentful as he doesn't respond to her voice at first. Unperturbed, she sits by him and puts his arm around her and his head on her bare shoulder. All the while, Porphyria tells the speaker of her love, which he seems to have doubted until this moment. It's not clear why, but there's a hint that others, perhaps her family, disapprove of their relationship. The speaker is delighted by this loving turn of events and wonders how he can preserve this perfect moment forever. So he strangles Porphyria with her long blonde hair, kisses her, and places her head on his shoulder whilst they sit together. They are in that position for the rest of the night, and even though he has committed murder, the speaker marvels how there's been no judgment from God. The speaker is obsessive and possessive in the extreme. He carefully notes each of Porphyria's actions when she enters his cottage, and once he realizes that she truly loves him, he repeats the word mine. The murder and its aftermath are recounted in clear detail, with the speaker able to literally place Porphyria exactly the way he wants her to be, according to his whim. Not surprisingly, the speaker demonstrates total control in the poem. Porphyria comes to him, risking her health and safety by venturing out in the middle of a stormy night. He doesn't acknowledge her even when she warms up the cottage and says his name. It is she who sits by him, she who puts his arm around her and his head on her shoulder, and she who seeks to reassure him of her love. All the speaker does is sit there. But once he realizes that Porphyria really does love him, he betrays that love in the most wicked way by brutally strangling her. Only in death does the speaker show any tenderness through his macabre actions with Porphyria's corpse. Outrageously, the speaker even suggests that her sudden death is something that she would have wanted. There is no apparent awareness on his part of his selfishness and the immorality of his violent actions. It is an abusive relationship and one in which the speaker is not punished, a fact that would have likely scandalized the original reader, and hopefully some modern ones too. Perhaps we shouldn't be so shocked by the events of the poem, since its title, and the title of a pairing the poem later appeared as part of, offer a clue from the outset on the speaker's state of mind. Porphyria is also the name of a mental illness that often resulted in hallucinations and which famously afflicted King George III, and which is hereditary. Whilst the poem was later paired with another under the title Madhouse Cells. Therefore, it's possible that the entire story is a figment of a mentally ill person's imagination, or it could be that the speaker is recounting his story as a way of explaining to the listener how he was sent to what used to be known as a lunatic asylum. Such a dark poem as this doesn't have an obvious companion from the Love and Relationships collection, but its use of pathetic fallacy can be linked with its uses in Winter Swans and Neutral Tones. The latter's description of a love that has gone wrong could be compared with Browning's poem, and which also applies to When We Two Parted. Interestingly, there are parallels with Mrs. Browning's poem I Think of Thee, which arguably is also about obsessive love.